welcome to Mind Balance. I've been meaning to talk more about schema therapy, so let me use this video to dive a little deeper into what schemas are and why we address them in therapy. Schemas are beliefs and expectations that we build in childhood about how the world works. These beliefs and expectations can function much like a lens, so that they can colour our perception of reality. So that can affect what information we take in, and also how we interpret the information we take in from the world around us. Schemas in childhood often build based on needs that aren't met. So for example, one of the schemas that we may have is a schema called abandonment. So that might be linked to fears that people close to us will leave us or become emotionally unavailable without warning. Often a childhood need that wasn't met, that is linked to the abandonment schema, for example, is the need for stability, to have secure, close, safe, emotional relationships. In that way, unmet childhood needs can really guide the formation of schemas that later on in adulthood lead us to interpret our reality and interpret our interactions in a particular way. Now, in adulthood, when a schema is activated, there are usually three different things that happen. The first one is there's a trigger, our schema gets activated, and then we have a very strong emotional response. We often refer to this as the inner child because it's such a raw core emotion. As a result, we try to relieve the distress that we have or that we're experiencing, and then we use a form of coping mode, a coping mechanism. That is also something we learned in childhood in order to deal with the emotions that we're struggling with. A second route for schema activation is that a schema is activated and we have that strong emotional response followed by our thoughts. And these are also related to the schema. They can be negative thoughts. We usually call this the authority mode or the inner critic. And these thoughts might be demanding, telling us we're not good enough, we should try harder, or punishing, telling us that we're unlovable or not worthy of love. After that process, we again use coping modes, behaviors to alleviate that distress. The third route is that a schema gets activated, the inner critic or authority mode kicks in first, telling us all those things, all those negative thoughts. Then we have a strong emotional response, and then we use a coping mechanism. Unfortunately, poor mental health often results from these schemas having quite a strong influence on our lives, causing a lot of emotional distress, negative thoughts, and damaging or unhelpful behavioral patterns. This is something that we then take the time to unpack in therapy, starting not only with what are your schemas, what is your inner critic saying, what is your inner child doing and feeling, and what are your behaviors, what are your coping modes, but also going back and looking at where did the trauma occur, how did these schemas form, what is their origin, and how can we help find more helpful behaviors, more helpful thoughts, and how can we tolerate those feelings that arise when the schemas are activated. This whole process together can lead to improved mental health and well-being.